Good morning and welcome to Carolina Cares, an iHeartMedia production, hailing from our flagship family of stations in Columbia, South Carolina. My name is Tyler Ryan, your host, and today we're going to talk about life since we're gift-giving and we're in the holidays. And so what about the ultimate gift of life? What does that mean? You give the gift of life. I think we all know what we're referring to. Since 1881, a fantastic organization started by one nurse has become an entity that provides about 45% of the blood to the world. There's a whole lot of blood thrown through them. My favorite vampires. Of course, we're talking about the American Red Cross. Joining me this morning on Carolina Cares, Maya Franklin. You are the External Communications Manager. Did I get that right? For the American Red Cross. Here, the American Red Cross is more than just a Midland, South Carolina, U.S. thing. Really, it's everywhere, right?
Yeah, we are a nationwide organization. The Red Cross also serves international services. So we've got teams deployed all over the world, across the globe, volunteers who are helping their fellow men in times of tragedy.
You know, and there's few organizations that we recognize. It's an no matter what language you speak, no matter where you're from, is an icon. Coca-Cola is one. I mean, they've done a great job. The Red Cross has done such a phenomenal job. It knows what it means when you just see that simple Red Cross. I know it's right. It's you guys.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I think ranked at the top, it's like Coca-Cola, the Red Cross, and I forget what the third brand is, right. But very well-known organizations all across the globe. Whenever someone is experiencing a tragedy or in times of distress, when they look up and they see that Red Cross, oftentimes it brings a symbol of hope, a symbol of comfort, and right. We are so grateful to have the privilege to be able to serve our neighbors in that capacity.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the, I guess, somewhat humble beginnings. You know, Miss Clara Barton back in 1881, I'm sure that she didn't envision this, 150, 120. I mean, my math is crazy, but a long time ago. Right. Let's talk about her and kind of how the beginnings of the Red Cross really formed way back in the 1800s.
I'm sure Clara would be very, very, very proud of the legacy of the Red Cross and what it is today. As you said, a nurse who really just wanted to help the members of the military and serve them as they served our country. And it has evolved into an organization with several lines of help during disasters such as hurricanes, tsunamis, those natural disasters, as well as home fires. Sure. Reaching out to families if they're the victim of a home fire overnight, making sure that they're wrapped in a warm blanket, that they have shelter. We see a lot of home fires this time of year as people are trying to keep warm, especially during the night. Also serving our communities by our blood services program to either sponsor a blood drive, to give blood themselves, or to give back, a procedure that people can do a lot more often. It helps people blood. Right. Obviously, specifically cancer patients, when they're undergoing chemotherapy treatments, to kind of help them through that process and give them the strength against that disease.
I love it. We're going to take a quick break on Carolina Cares and come back with Maya Franklin. We're going to talk, I guess, maybe the operational side of the Red Cross even know exists. At least I always learn every time I speak with the folks from there, including a look back at the hurricanes we get, and of course ahead to part of that's on January 9th. So we're going to do all that in a couple of minutes as we continue on here. Carolina Cares with the American Red Cross. Stay close.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Carolina Cares. We'll continue our conversation with Maya Franklin, the External Communications Manager for the American Red Cross of the Midlands.
That's right.
And
it's a mouthful, but you got it.
Without a business card, y'all. Listeners to the show know that I will butcher not only names, but titles in a skinny minute. But you know what? That's pretty good.
I appreciate it.
But we're talking about the Red Cross. Briefly talked about the history started by one nurse back in the late 1800s, 1881, and her mission and her desire to provide blood and services for the military. And the interesting thing about the timing of that is, I guess there maybe was a war going on
American Civil War.
No, in 1881, the Civil War was over. And so she was served in the Civil War. But I think it's interesting that there wasn't a war going on. She still said there's a need for the military.
Right. I think, her experience as a nurse on the battlefield, she's like, we've got to do more to help these people who are fighting for our freedoms.
Right. And she recognizes there'll always be an army, and though unfortunately will probably always be wars, and she hasn't been too far off.
Yeah.
So, the Red Cross. But of course now the mission of the Red Cross has expanded well beyond the military to basically every facet of life. As you were mentioning before the break, everybody knows, yes, you give the gift of life, blood. You need that. That's the Red Cross. But there are so many other things and so many other people that you touch just in day-to-day life that go so far beyond sitting down and having a 20-foot needle. I hate needles, by the way, stuck in your arm.
It's not quite that large.
It looks, when I'm sitting there, Maya Franklin, it looks like it's 25 feet long and 7 feet wide. I swear to God.
Look the other way and take a deep breath. We've got tons of tips to help you get through that donation process.
You do get cookies, though.
You do get cookies. There's chips. There's juice.
Well, we'll come back to the blood talk. Yeah, my favorite vampires. But let's talk a little bit, just some of the other services you mentioned before the break. This time of year especially, there's a lot of house fires. People trying to stay warm, and unfortunately not everybody may have a fantastic furnace. They turn to alternative heat sources that aren't maybe the safest. Then there's always, you've got Christmas lights that heat up. You've got just some wiring, some houses that are hundreds of years old. Some of the wiring, sometimes it's just one of those things. Fires happen. But
that's right.
It does seem like it's more prevalent in the wintertime, right?
Yeah, you're right. We not only do we have to or try to provide comfort and assistance for those folks who have experienced a home fire for any of the reasons that you've mentioned, but also try to provide education so that people know and they're looking out for things like how their holiday decor might be set up, the sources that they're using to heat their homes, how many things they've got plugged into those outlets. That's very important.
Yeah, there is and I've seen, I'm probably growing up, I'm sure my mama would put those, it's called daisy chaining, right? Yeah. Christmas lights. You can't put 27 daisy chain Christmas lights on one outlet, y'all. Yes. You just can't do it.
Yes. Not a great idea. I know we want to, really get into the holiday spirit, have a lot of lights, but there are other things that we can do to make it look fancy, So really just protect your home, protect your family by being smart. We've got tons of tips about preparedness on our website, redcross.org. But yeah, that's very important that people are paying attention, getting that education, also having a plan in the event that there is a disaster. Does your family know how they're going to get out of your home, where to go when you get out of your home? I think it's something that a lot of us don't think about. We don't, that's kind of the unthinkable, is us having a home or a fire within our homes. But when it does happen, preparedness is key.
It seems like I remember, and maybe I'm making it up, I'm not sure, but it seemed like when I was younger, when I was a kid, there were PSAs, public service announcements, about really focusing on that plan, on creating the disaster plan, getting the ladders and showing the kids, if they're on the second floor, how to use the ladders to get out. But most importantly, where to regroup. All right, kids, if there's a tragic event in this house, a fire, something else, we're going to meet at the big oak tree, because you want to make sure that because the firemen need to know is if you've got a family, your wife and two kids and a dog, if all five of you are there, you're good. Yeah. The firemen need to know, is there anybody else in the house? No, there's not. My two daughters are here, my wife and my dog. We're good. Right. You want for accountability. And it seems like there was a big push on that a while ago, Megan. Maybe I'm just hazy memory, but it seems like there should be if there's not.
Yeah. Absolutely. When we go around and canvass in different neighborhoods for our Sound the Alarm campaign in the spring, we're also providing that education to those folks who do have working smoke alarms. We're talking with them about a plan, even writing out a plan with them on a whiteboard, so that they can share with their families if they need to make changes. Right. Easily. They can erase something, keep it on the refrigerator so everyone knows what the plan is, how to get out of the house, and like you said, where they should meet, whether it's at that oak tree, at the family van that's parked somewhere far away down the driveway or something like that.
And I think education, too, is important. Knowing to touch the door if you can feel the heat. If you're in your room and you smell smoke, you don't just open the door, throw it open. The doorknob could be hot if there's a fire on the other side, but also if there's a fire, you don't want to open the door up into that fire. So those things, those little tips that maybe you don't think about until you're like, holy moly, it's 3 a.m. and I smell smoke. What in the world am I going to do?
Yeah, you're barely awake, right? So your senses are not probably where you would want them to be to get out of that home. But really just educating yourself beforehand, educating your family, your wife, your kids, your husband, so that everyone's prepared when that unfortunate event might occur.
And that's, and I think, thankfully, thank God, I've had a lot of friends who have been involved in fires, and I firsthand have not to this point, and we're going to hope my luck holds out. But it's got to be so incredibly, I guess, devastating, confusing when everything you own is in a house that no longer stands. I mean, you're talking your clothes, your family heirloom, your college diploma, who knows what. You've got literally the clothes on your back, or maybe the pajamas you're wearing. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Red Cross comes in and steps up and says, we got this for a minute, right?
Yeah, we come in, we have volunteers who are on call throughout the night, and they would respond to some of those house fires. Again, like I said, they're going to make sure that you're warm, you're comfortable, but also providing assistance in the coming weeks to make sure that you still have shelter, kind of helping to get you on your feet.
So you're not one and done. You're not that morning like, all right, guys, here's a blanket. Peace out. See ya.
No, just like we are with disasters, like hurricanes and those, like I was saying, those natural disasters that can take months, even years to recover from. We're there with you. Right. We're helping you, not only providing comfort, shelter, but assistance to get you started and get back on your feet.
Well, and I know, obviously, I do the news every morning. And so unfortunately, again, this time of year more often than the summer, there's reports of an overnight house fire. There's one on Jake's Landing just this past week where a trailer burned up out at the lake. It's always almost immediately the stories, and even if I'm just looking at a website, I'm not working, the one piece that is almost always is the Red Cross is already there. It's like, you guys are right behind the firemen. I don't know how you do it, but you guys are always there like an hour after the firemen are still working on the fire. The Red Cross is there.
Yeah, and even sometimes when we have some of those more large-scale fires at apartments, some of those blazes that are hard for firefighters to battle take a long time to get under control. Right. Maybe it's a vacant building that caught fire. Even though no one's inside, our firefighters are working very hard to get that fire under control. And we do have volunteers who go out in the middle of the night or whatever time of day, and they're also supporting our firefighters, making sure that they're well hydrated, that they have food, just trying to help them during this process so that they're feeling good and they're able to do their jobs, giving them strength to carry on and carry out their roles. I
told you, every time I talk to the Red Cross, I see new angle, and honestly, I guess I never really thought much about that, but you're right. You're out there also helping the first responders that are helping the people. It's not just your house, come on, but you're making sure that those brave men and women have what they need to stay safe and healthy while they continue to do the job.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really an effort to help our community in any way that we can.
Where do those resources come from? The blankets, or maybe the place to stay, or the pair of shoes, or where do all those resources come from that I assume you keep in a great big closet somewhere with a red cross on the door, I guess?
Somewhere in the building, right? Well, we keep them stocked, and that is thanks in part to the financial donors who give, whether it's a Giving Day campaign, maybe they have their own Red Cross story and want to give back, and so they provide financial assistance to help keep this organization thriving.
Right. I love it. Speaking with Maya Franklin from the Red Cross here of the Midlands, but obviously the Red Cross with not only a Midlands, South Carolina footprint, but a national and international, global footprint, all started back in 1881. I still love that story. So you guys, obviously we know the fire. We see the stories every time there is a fire and it hits the news wires. Red Cross is there. The other aspect of the Red Cross, or one of the other, is the disaster relief, and we were chatting before the show about Dorian, one of the most devastating hurricanes to hit in a while, and we unfortunately we have it every year, and we're right down that barrel when it comes to hurricanes, and you guys are there instantly as well to provide similar services but a wider scope, right?
Yeah, you're right. With Dorian being behind the scenes, it was even interesting for me as a part of the Red Cross team here and serving the Palmetto State. we not only do we have volunteers locally who are impacted, they're boarding up their houses, making sure that their families are safe, maybe helping them evacuate, but we also have volunteers coming from across the country. And this past year, in anticipation of Dorian, we had 635 volunteers come from across the country to make sure that this region was supported, helping to open up shelters, helping to keep those folks who are who evacuated to shelters, keep them fed, providing emotional assistance during that time. So many people don't know what they will return to, whether their home has been flooded, whether shingles have been ripped off the roof, if they're even going to have a home that's standing at all when they get back, when they're, free to go and kind of begin the recovery process. So we have volunteers who are helping them every step of the way. And just like they do with those home fires, those volunteers are also helping make sure that they have assistance in their next steps.
Right. Now, when you're looking at, let's say, a Dorian, a Matthew, Irma, whatever, obviously the difference there clearly in disaster relief is a house fire. You know what's going to happen. You can go to bed tonight and not have a house tomorrow morning. With a hurricane, for the most part, we at least have a run up knowing we better have a plan. Thankfully, oftentimes it tends to fizzle out, and we've been struck a few times, but a lot of times we get worried. But at least there's that lead up, right? Now, I'm assuming you guys have a team that actually works maybe with EMD, the Emergency Medical Division, or Management Service, or with people like that. Do you have that unit that's what they specifically do, is say, okay, here's the action plan, because this storm, there's a 50% chance it's going to hit Myrtle Beach. Yeah. What are we going to do?
Absolutely. We are always collaborating with Emergency Management Services in the wake of, or anticipation rather, of a disaster, of a hurricane or some sort of flooding event that could impact people in their homes. So as things are developing over time as the storm nears our coastline, we're working together to see what the needs are, where the needs are. Our emergency management services and other agency partners are helping with everything from getting people out of their homes to even sometimes providing blood, getting it from point A to point B in those critical situations where someone might need blood, but we don't really have a way of getting it there.
Sure.
We've seen helicopters that are helping to provide blood, sending it from one of our distribution centers to a hospital. Right. So they're helping in so many different ways that we don't even think about a lot oftentimes.
Sure, and I'm glad you mentioned like helicopters and other alternative means, because you're right. If you say you live on a small island off the coast of South Carolina and the bridge is out because a hurricane came, you got to airlift it somehow. You can't just drive it. I mean, I suppose you could boat it over, but still, the quicker way is obviously going to be to fly in a helicopter or a plane or whatever, some sort of aircraft. I guess you could drone them over now.
Yeah. Right. I don't know if we want to drop blood via drone. I'm sure it's part of the future, but not something that I've even thought about.
Good enough for Amazon.
They'll be thinking about it after this hits the airwaves.
There you go. I mean, I'm getting my pizza that way. Maya Franklin with the American Red Cross. So you've touched on it a couple of times, and obviously probably the most iconic thing is the gift of life. That great marketing that Coca-Cola's done. Number 2, the Red Cross has done, and that's that you guys are vampires, man. You come take our blood. But I love the Red Cross math that for every pint of blood you take, you actually can save 3 lives.
You have a huge impact by just taking an hour of your time to donate blood. There are 3 ways that one blood donation can help a patient in need. One is through your whole blood cells, often used for accidents, mothers who are experiencing complications during childbirth, maybe if they have premature babies. They require a lot of blood oftentimes. And then there's also your platelets, which are used often for cancer patients who are undergoing chemotherapy treatment. Right. And then plasma is used for burn victims.
So that 1 pint, that 1 hour of your time, of your day, of your lunch, of whatever, your afternoon, could save 3 other lives. And I love that math. I always try to talk about it. and make that point because it is so important. And you get free cookies. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
What about the ideal candidates? I know there's some restrictions on when you like. First of all, the timeline. I know people. I have friends that are religious. I mean, they give it the minute they're eligible, they're back in again, giving another a pint. Is it a month? How many days is that?
Yeah, every 56 days you're eligible to donate blood.
Why is that? Is that just because you need the blood yourself too? And
you lose a certain volume of blood when you donate to replenish all those cells and make sure that you're healthy for your next donation.
Right.
That's why we have that delay in when you can give again. For those who give platelets, the gap is a little bit shorter. Platelets have a shelf life of 7 days or 5 days rather. So we ask that people come as often as every 7 days to give platelets.
How do you? I mean, you're sticking this 17-foot long, 25-inch wide. I'm just kidding, y'all. But again, that's what it looks like to me. Needle in. How do you decide? Blood is blood. How do you only take platelets out, not the blood?
So the procedure, I think, is pretty fascinating. There's some machines that we use. So what it will do is when it comes out, it looks like you're just giving blood, but you're actually going to get your red blood cells and your plasma back. So at the end of the donation, there is a bag, a big, what seems like a yellow bag. I won't say what it looks like to some folks. You can use your imagination there, or go to redcrossblood.org and see what it looks like. But it goes through a special machine, and it separates the blood components.
And then you get it back, put it back in.
You get it back. And one of the things that's different between giving blood and giving platelets is when you give blood, you choose an arm, left arm, right arm. I'm righty, so I always choose my left arm.
Right.
But when you give platelets, you're using both arms. So going out one, coming in on the other side, and they're also going to give you blankets, wrap you up, because a lot of folks get really chilly as those blood products and saline are inserted back into your body.
Yeah, do you get 2 cookies if you give both? I mean, if you have 2 arms.
You can have as many cookies as you want. You can watch movies. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to your favorite playlist. There's tons of things that you can do to relax.
I love it. What are some of the disqualifiers for beyond the time frame? But if you're sick, I mean, are there certain autoimmune disease or afflictions you may have? What would say, even though you want to give blood, you're going to say thank you, but no thanks?
Yeah, so there are 3 basic things that we want people to think of as they consider giving blood. 1, you have to be 16 years old with parental consent. 2, you have to be 120 pounds. And in general good health the day of your donation. There are some people who have maybe diabetes or have had their own bouts of cancer and have questions about whether or not they're eligible to give. If you have diabetes and it's under control, also high blood pressure is another one we get questions about. Those 2 conditions, if they're under control through medications, you're eligible to donate. Again, as long as you're feeling well, as long as your hemoglobin levels are acceptable for donation, and
what about
also
if you got
your
the
temperature.
Flu? I always worry about that because it's flu season.
Yeah, that's one. Your temperature.
I feel fine, but I still may have the flu, right?
I may vomit, but I feel fine, right? No, as long as if you do have the flu, we ask that you take some time to rest to feel better and come back when you're feeling well. But like I was saying, those conditions and the flu in particular. When around this time of year, we see a lot of folks getting sick, and it sometimes contributes to how much blood we're able to collect. It's definitely a factor in the winter, along with winter weather.
Is there a? I mean, interrupt you, but we're on the topic of just the flu and sick.
Yeah.
When the blood goes to wherever it goes to, when you guys process it, you take it away in a big blood truck, whatever. Is it tested? Is it checked to make sure? I mean, what if I've got the flu and I don't know it? I feel fine, but I have the flu. And I give blood, I don't want to give that to somebody else. I don't want, you end up with me, and that's terrible, right? I mean, is there a quality control?
Yeah, so there is a processing step as part of the blood donation process, and your blood will be tested for infectious diseases.
Okay.
Again, if you have the flu and you come to donate, more than likely you're going to have a temperature. We're going to check your temperature before we even move you on through the process. So we're going to know whether or not you actually feel well enough to give blood.
That makes sense. Maya Franklin with the American Red Cross. So there are certain times of the year where blood is, I guess it's needed all year round, but certainly this time of year when folks aren't feeling well, doing things with family, and I think that probably the blood supply drops a little. But summertime, I know also there's an increased need because people are on vacations, but also people tend to get hurt more because they're out on vacation. And so the need is greater sometimes, but the supply is a little less, right?
Yeah, that's true. And another reason, I'll just throw this out there, we collect a lot of units of blood at high schools and colleges. So during the summer and also during the winter, they're not in session, and therefore we cannot host blood drives during these times. So that also contributes to the challenge in blood collection during those winter months and the summer months. You compound that with holiday travel, just summer activities, winter activities, keeping different schedules, and just being busy in general, not really maybe thinking about the need or having the time to give.
Sure. And of course, you can give any day of the week that you can come to the actual, like in the Midlands anyway, but you can go to your local Red Cross and give any day of the week you want to, right? Whether it's here on Bull Street or down on Rivers Avenue, North Charleston, or wherever, right?
Yep, that's right. You can go to redcrossblood.org to find out about opportunities near where you live, work, play, go to church.
Sure.
There's always tons of opportunities on our website, redcrossblood.org. Also, by downloading our blood donor app.
There's always an app.
From your app store. Yeah, we're talking about apps, right? You can find blood donation opportunities there, or by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Great stuff. And of course, there's always drives around too. You can look around. I know that this time of year, there's a lot of media partnerships. WIS here in town had a big drive on Thursday, and I know that ABC Columbia, coming up on the 9th of January, so a couple weeks, has got one. Now, this is an annual event. ABC and the Red Cross partners with iHeart, and it's normally just at the Plex, but this year it's at 2 locations, right?
Yeah, we are so grateful for the support of all of our media partners in the Columbia area, in the Midlands, who help us to spread awareness and get the word out about the urgent need for blood, especially this time of year. So on January 9th, Thursday, January 9th, from 7 to 7, we will be at the Plex at the Village at Sandhill and also in Irma. So 2 opportunities on 2 different sides of town for folks to be part of that event and resolve to give hope in the new year.
I think it's great. I'm glad there's 2 locations because I understand that sometimes Sandhills is hard to get to if you work and live in Lexington or Harbison and you want to. So it's great that there's multiple locations and through all the media partnerships, but iHeart and ABC. I know that's a big day for both organizations, both media organizations, to be out there. It takes about an hour, you said?
About an hour to give blood. It's about a 4-step process. It starts with registration. Then you'll go through your health history, answering a series of questions about travel, medications you may be taking, and then we will test your hemoglobin, test your blood pressure, and get a check of your temperature. If all of those things check out well, then the blood donation process itself, when you're sitting on the bed, actually giving blood after the needle has been inserted, only takes about 8 to 10 minutes. Once you wrap that up, you get those cookies, chips, and juice that you've been waiting for.
You go about your business, and remember that hour of time, potentially you can save 3 lives. And you don't know who those lives are. Those lives could be your family members. It could be somebody you'll never, ever know. And both ways are magical that there's something special about giving blood, and you should feel pretty good when you do, because you are helping other people, whether you think you're not or not.
Yeah. One of the cool things I love about the Red Cross Blood Donor app is that you can see where your blood went. You can track which hospital it actually goes to. So for me, I think one of my last donations went to a hospital in Augusta, a children's hospital in Augusta. So to know that I'm potentially helping a child with some type of condition, whether they broke their arm and lost blood or have a ongoing condition, to help them is priceless.
I love it. Redcross.org or redcrossblood.org. Find out more information. Of course, the drive coming up on the 9th. You want to be a part of that as well. Miss Maya Franklin from the American Red Cross. So many other things than just blood, the disaster relief, the fires, other stuff. The American Red Cross touches our lives in so many ways. And I think it's our duty, I'll say it, to give an hour of time to maybe volunteer, give a little bit of yourself back for what they do for their organization. But thank you very much for your efforts and the whole team, the American Red Cross, right? Here on Carolina Cares, thank you for joining us. My name is Tyler Ryan, broadcasting and recording right here, our flagship family of stations in Columbia, South Carolina. If you'd like to be a guest or have an idea for a show, Tyler Ryan at iHeartMedia.com. This has been Carolina Cares. I will speak with you in 7 days.